The University of Rhode Island's Bay campus hosted one of the Atlantic Menhaden Draft Amendments presentations, designed to inform and gather public comment for the upcoming Atlantic Fisheries Management's quota determination.
My name is Megan Ware. I'm the coordinator for Atlantic Menhaden, and I'll be collecting your comments tonight on Draft Amendment 3.
Although a number of topics were discussed, the most important was the overall fishery numbers.
These are the 5 management alternatives here. Option E is a 75% target and a 40% threshold. So that says in the interim, we use a fishing rate that achieves 75% unfished biomass as our target, and then a mortality rate that achieves 40% unfished biomass as our threshold.
A fishery that seems to be overly impacted with what occurs in Virginia and the Chesapeake Bay, considering that these fish are so important to Narragansett Bay in so many ways.
Lots of spawning happens in the Chesapeake Bay, so that's a critical nursery area, but there are also spawning that happens in Delaware Bay and even further up. So it's spread out a little bit, but typically Chesapeake Bay is what people talk about. I'm going to start by allowing people to speak, but if it looks like we're getting some repetitive comments, what I'll do is move to a show of hands.
Eventually, the show of hands were necessary because the audience, in near unanimous agreement, as the public comments pointed out.
For decades, recreational and commercial rod and reel fishers in Rhode Island have recognized the important role menhaden play providing forage for striped bass as well as many other target species. I agree with the board that the way to manage menhaden is through the implementation of ecological reference points, ERPs. To this end, I support the current option E, which is a true compromise between significant reductions in quota and continued quota increases. It seems that the only responsible way for the board to act in November is to pass option E for ERPs, allow some reallocation to states such as Maine and Rhode Island that effectively now have no quota.
I'm speaking tonight as Executive Director of the Rhode Island Saltwater Anglers Association and the 7,500 members we represent. We support option E.
I know from first-hand experience how important this species is as a forage fish. I've seen over the years direct correlation when there are less menhaden in the water, there are less bluefish, there are less striped bass, and less osprey as well.
Yes, this is not just about fishermen.
My name is Meg Kerr, and I'm here representing the Audubon Society of Rhode Island. We also strongly support option E because it maintains the menhaden in the bay for the ecological functions, especially the birds that our members care so much about. Menhaden are really essential to viable osprey populations. When the menhaden start declining, the osprey do as well.
The wildlife and the health of the bay itself so desperately need healthy menhaden stocks.
My name is Jonathan Stone. I'm Executive Director of Save the Bay. Save the Bay represents about 20,000 households in Rhode Island that care about Narragansett Bay and use the bay in various capacities. We have a very broad-based constituency that is very concerned about the ecological health of Narragansett Bay. Critically important from the perspective of water quality. And my point in bringing this up is to emphasize how important this species is to Rhode Island. Menhaden, as many of you know, are voracious filter feeders. There's been a lot of landmark research done in Rhode Island. The important role menhaden play in filtering zooplankton, particularly adult menhaden in zooplankton and juveniles in phytoplankton. More menhaden help address the problem of overloading nitrogen in Narragansett Bay. Save the Bay strongly supports option E.
And members of the audience pointed out the incredibly out-of-whack allocation numbers for the state of Virginia.
Virginia takes 85% of the allocation. One company takes most of that allocation.
Basically, we are here tonight because of one commercial enterprise, Omega Protein.
It smacks of corruption is what bothers me about it. One company is buying the allocation in some manner or another. I don't like to see that happen.
They fished the East Coast out just when the pollution increased in the Chesapeake Bay. They took away the garbage man, the menhaden.
There's no other natural resource in the world that I know of that is managed
for the benefit of one state or one company. But we all kind of agree that it's a primary food source for a number of fish, wildlife, birds, and other species, which make it so incredibly important, as well as a filter fish, which has been also set out here today. I fully support option E, to leave 75% of these fish in the water.
The overwhelming consensus of the room. I'm Don Coyne reporting.